Alrighty, welcome. Welcome to another episode of Guts, Grit, and Great Business. I am Heather Pierce Campbell, your host, the legal website warrior. I'm an attorney and legal coach based here in Seattle, Washington, serving online information entrepreneurs throughout the US and the world. I'm super excited to welcome today our guest, Kate Northrup. Welcome, Kate.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
Excellent. Well, I've been looking forward to this. I know we just got it on the schedule. I've seen your work for a while in the world. We live kind of in different areas, me being in legal, you being in finance, but they're so heavily related. So many of my clients end up along the way needing financial support. And in my experience, the earlier we get that plugged in, the better.
Same with
But it
legal.
same with legal.
Yeah.
That's a true story. That one people learn the hard way,
Yep.
most often. The financial one, they can kind of learn along the way. It's like baby steps. And I see people making strides in my own life. It has often felt like baby steps, but it's such a big piece of the puzzle. And that relationship to money, the mindset work that we have to do around self and money. I'd love to know where the earliest thread of this topic started for you in your life. Like how did this become the thing that you end up doing, right?
Great question. It's so funny. I'm like always wondering that myself. But I was in Chinese astrology. I was born in the year of the pig, and
Mm.
the year of the pig is really about abundance. And as a kid, I started my first business when I was 7. I was just really like into making money, and I found this little about me brochure that I had made in the second grade. And it said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I said, I wanted to be an accountant, which I am not an accountant, but I do deal with money for a living. And it's just wild. So I was just always into money. However,
Mm.
my parents got divorced when I was 15, 16. And at that time, my mom realized she knew nothing about money. So even though she was an incredibly successful doctor, she had actually had written multiple New York Times bestselling books, been on Oprah. Like she had a very big career and very successful. However, she realized she had just like unconsciously given all the financial power to my dad. And so she went through this real financial awakening at the age of 50. And at the time, I was 16, and I just kind of was into it. So we read like Think and Grow Rich together.
Mm.
We read the Robert Kiyosaki books. We started going to personal finance seminars, when I was in high school, but then also simultaneously reading like Catherine Ponder's the Divine Laws of Prosperity, I think is the book, and sort of some of the metaphysical stuff as well. So I ended up getting into this world from a practical and spiritual perspective early. And then in my early 20s, I got into a bunch of credit card debt because I was completely spiritually bypassing financial consciousness. And I was like, well, you're just supposed to act as if, but instead I was spending as if. So I was a total financial avoider. I got myself in a financial mess. And for years, I just never looked at it. And
Mm.
then the tension and discomfort of what my life looked like on the outside and what was actually going on behind the scenes became so uncomfortable. Like the mismatch and the misalignment became really painful. Like I was an elastic band that had stretched to the point that it was now going to break. And so I knew I needed to get it together financially, but all of the personal finance advice I had seen out there just felt very shame based. It felt very masculine. And quite frankly, it felt incredibly boring. And so
Ding,
I
ding, ding.
created my own curriculum for myself. And then I used it to get out of my credit card debt in 6 months. So I paid off all of my debt. I doubled my income. I doubled my savings, and I never looked back. And that was the foundation of what became my first book, Money, a Love Story.
Mm. Well, and I'll pause here. I should have let you know that I record the intro separately, so you'll have all of that. The thing that you just shared that I think is really profound is one, being able to witness that learning journey with your mom. Like, I think a lot of kids miss out on that. They see either the rules that are already embedded in their parents' lives around money, or they have those rules passed down to them in really, and maybe not so much now, but certainly when I was a kid, very traditional ways, right? And you're right, it feels restrictive. It feels shame-based. I think that that shame story continues for so many people, and I think it's part of what makes it hard to get to be transparent around finances and money in order to get the right help, right? I deal with it even when clients come to me and say, "Hey, do you know a CPA or a tax person that could help me?" Right? And I'm like, "Well, do you want the kind that will help you help you?" Really dig in and look at those numbers, or are you just wanting the kind that are like, look backwards, see what you did, and just pay your taxes? Those are very different kinds. And
Very
unfortunately,
different.
most people end up with the latter version of that
They do
scenario.
because we lack in our culture key moments of financial education. Kids go to driver's ed to learn to drive a car. We learn key life skills,
Yeah.
but there will not be one day of your life where money is not part of your existence. And yet everyone is just supposed to figure it out and
Yeah.
then be good at it, except we're also not supposed to talk about it. So how are we ever going to figure this out? It's just like sex, right? It's like suddenly you're an adult now, you're supposed to be good at this, but also don't ever talk about it. And no one's ever going to
Totally.
teach you. What?
Oh my gosh. Like you want to laugh, but you want to cry at the same time hearing that,
Yeah,
right? And I think it really is that way and that clear. And it's what happens. And it's probably why a lot of women are not dealing with this until they're
yeah,
transforming other areas of their lives. And when is that? 40s, 50s.
totally. Yeah. And for many people, it's when they go through a divorce,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Well, it's those,
And money issues are the number one leading cause of divorce.
yeah. Yeah. Those pinch points, those points
Yes.
in life that force us to look at something. And you mentioned, I can't remember exactly how you said it, but basically the pressure of your outside life looking a certain way and your money life looking very different, right? That imbalance became so big that you had to deal with it. I think you've described the forcing mechanism that so many people get to in some way, right? Could be in a different way, like divorce or health issues or something else that actually forces them to look at something differently and make a change. What do you find in your work that you do with clients to be the most surprising thing that people learn when they're either in the middle of that forcing mechanism and beginning to make change, or they're kind of on the other side and they're actually in a healthy spot to make a change? Is there something that they're just like, "Oh my gosh, I never knew"? Do you have those
Yeah.
those
I mean,
ahas?
really, in my work, it's like ultimately it's just never about the money,
Yeah.
and the biggest myth is that making more money is going to sort of fix all your problems. But and sure, that's true if you're housing insecure or food insecure, it's going to
Yes.
make a huge difference. Once you have basically enough, though,
Yeah.
more money actually just amplifies the misalignments and the
Mm.
energetic leaks. And we think like, oh, it's okay, I'll just make more money. But if you have a bucket with holes in it and you just keep pouring more water in, you just get a leak that's leaking out faster. And that's the same thing with folks who don't have solid money systems and who
Mm.
also have not built the capacity in their nervous system to feel safe with money. So I work with people on a dual level. One, the internal systems and structures to feel safe with money. And then once we've built a solid foundation there, then we work on the external systems, which are impossible to maintain until you've built the internal
Mm.
safety. And so we do both.
Yeah. That. I mean, you said a couple things. One, working on the nervous system. Talk to us about the relationship. Like, where did you discover money is connected to nervous system?
It was not fun. I will say this is so 2021. I'd been learning about the nervous system more in relationship to my own use of productivity as a trauma response.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that started in 2019, but 2021, my husband became really ill for the second time with something called topical steroid withdrawal or red man syndrome. And it was absolutely awful. He lost 40 pounds in 1 month. His skin was
Hmm.
raw and like it was, I won't even get into it. It was
I
disastrously
I
super disgusting.
remember
But
seeing some of your
yes,
social posts in that time and being like, "What is this? I've never
it
heard of
was,
this before."
yes, it was awful. And any kind of illness is awful. This
Mhm.
particular one, there was no clear diagnosis and no clear plan of treatment.
Oh,
So it was also like, it's really bad. We have no plan. And we had just moved to Miami to help his healing rather than going back to Maine because of the cold and the dry, whatever.
yeah.
So we're in Miami. We're suddenly paying for two lives because we moved sort of under duress. So we're paying for this new life in Miami, paying for life in Maine. My husband and business partner now cannot work. I've got the two little kids. It's also the pandemic. My mom was getting publicly canceled on the internet. It was such a shit show. And we were with our therapist, who we meet on Zoom, very modern. He lives in Bali. And he,
I, that is
yeah,
the one thing I will just
right?
say, if we need to still find silver linings related to
No,
COVID, the
I
number
know.
of people that were able to go outside of network
Totally.
to find therapists and experts, I'm like,
Totally. The
hallelujah.
best. I mean,
Yes.
in all fairness, we've been seeing him since 2016, but still.
Right. You're ahead of the curve. I'm
We
talking
were
to
so
all
ahead
of
of the curve.
the,
Everyone's suddenly like, "Oh my God,
yes.
I'm living on Zoom." I'm like, "Welcome, welcome to my life."
Right. I know. I went virtual in 2012 in my
Oh wow,
legal
yeah. So,
practice,
oh
which
my gosh,
other attorneys are like,
what is she
what?
doing?
What?
I know,
Yes. Like you never
totally
see
ahead
your
of the curve.
client. And
Yes.
I'm,
No, yeah. I mean, I love in person, but
yeah, I do
anyway, so
too.
we're
I do too.
there, we're having the session, and I was really in this loop. I was in a loop of resentment. I was
Mm.
in a loop of profound stress and overwhelm. And my particular thought loop was if Mike could just get healthy and make a bunch of money, everything would be fine.
Ah.
And so David had me go inside. And the fascinating thing about our bodies is, and our unconscious, they have no sense of time. And our bodies really speak for our unconscious in many ways. And there's no sense of time. So that's a beautiful thing. And when you do a visualization, your body will tell you the truth because it doesn't know the difference of whether it's happening actually or whether you're just imagining it. So he had me go inside and he said, "Okay, Kate, now I want you to imagine that Mike has just come home and he says, okay, I just made $10 million. dollars. So now you don't have to work anymore. And we don't really need to do this work thing for a while. How do you feel?" And one would expect that I would have felt so relieved, excited, like a
Mhm.
big relaxation exhale. And I was so shocked by what I actually felt because what I actually felt was like dead inside, totally flatlined. So,
Mm.
yeah, and what
And
I
I,
realized this meant is that I was addicted to stress and pressure, particularly of the time and financial variety. And I was using stress and pressure around money and time, like productivity, getting things done to make money as my primary fuel source for my life and my work.
well, and that's such a tricky, like when I heard you say that and thought about it, even in my own life, it's like, well, I think for women in particular, there's this overarching need to create your own financial success
Totally.
in order to feel
Yes, because a
okay,
man
to
is
feel
not a financial
stable.
plan.
That's right. That's right. And so
Totally.
even hearing that, I'm like, oh, well, I still wouldn't probably be able to just like let that go, you know?
No. And I don't think it's like it's not a 1 in 10, right? So what I
Yeah.
did is we did have this business. We did have these customers I had promised things to. But what I did is a 90-day experiment where I said, okay, I'm not allowed to launch anything new or like run a campaign from this place of stress and
Mhm.
pressure. I'm going into coast mode. We are simply delivering on what we already promised, the end. And anytime I feel that like nervous system trauma response of like
Yep.
ramp up, like, let me write this email campaign. I'm just going to add on this promotion. Da, da, da. Every time I do that, I'm not allowed to do it just for 90 days. And I said, I'll either be willing to use X amount of savings or 90
Mhm.
days, whichever one comes first. Like I had a
Yep.
stopgap. And every time I felt that ramp up energy, I would just scream into a pillow in the closet, lay down and watch some daytime TV, cry on the phone with a girlfriend, or
Yeah.
go to the ocean and like see what the ocean had to tell me. Those were my
Mm.
choices. And it was very painful. Those 90 days were very painful. But
Oh
what
my
was so
gosh.
fascinating is at the end of it, we had hit all of our financial goals. I had not used my old pattern of like ramp up. And now I had this lived experience that stress and pressure were not required to have financial success.
Mm. Oh, say that
And
again. Say that again.
stress and pressure are not required to have financial success. And
Yeah.
that time, that 90 days, helped me to understand that my nervous system was running an unhealthy pattern around money. And I was saying, I need to make this amount, or my husband needs to make this amount in order for me to exhale and be allowed to relax. And I just was like, I'm just going to relax first and see what happens. Even though all the evidence was like, this is not a good time to relax. Your husband's sick. You have two small children. You've just moved
Mhm.
to a new city. You're also still paying for your previous life. Like, this is on you, babe. But I was like,
Yeah.
what if I just relax now? And
Yeah.
it totally changed my life. So that's how I learned personally that our money and our nervous system are connected. Because even though growing up, I went to ballet classes, we had food, like there was no, I have
Mm.
never experienced actual, like real, there's not enough, but people in my lineage have.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that ancestral trauma lives in us. And
Totally.
also, the environment that I was raised in around money was stress and pressure.
Yeah.
Always, always. It was always that money's already been spent. I have so much to do. Da, 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 da. So there's always stress and pressure. So the thing that we have to really understand, and I want everyone listening to hear this, our nervous system has a set point, a thermostat, a financial thermostat. And that financial thermostat is set according to the feeling around money when you were growing up. Not the amount of money,
Mm. Just
but
the
the emotional temperature around money. And so for me, it was stress and pressure. And so
yeah.
I've had to actively engage to change the thermostat using applied neurology and nervous system healing tools to do so. And I will just tell you, it freaking works.
Amazing. Well, and I can't wait to get to the part around you like meeting all your financial goals in that time period, even when from an outsider's perspective, that looked really rough, right? I
It was a
mean,
rough time.
yeah, all of those, all of the things that first of all, you combine a move with any kind of impact to your work, plus illness, plus moving children, like you've
And
got
then
like
during that time, also, my husband fell off a bike and broke his leg. So then he couldn't walk. And then a year and a half later, he got hit by a car.
Oh my
So
God. Were you just like, what the F universe? Were you
I was,
like,
there was
I
too much. But I will say,
totally,
like, it gave me so many opportunities to practice. And it was like, how about now? Are
yeah,
you going to keep
you did
practicing what you
that.
preach now?
Yeah,
Well,
what about
how
this?
about now? And I
Mm,
did, and I kept like really honing that skill set. And then I started incorporating it with my clients because I was like, I'm not the only one with a jacked up nervous system around money.
oh no. Oh no, 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 no. Yeah. I'm curious. In those initial days, what was the hardest part of letting go? Because you just told yourself like you can't do
Well,
this old pattern.
I mean, it really is deeply painful to
Hmm.
rewire ourselves, or it can be because my identity was so steeped in being capable and being
Mm.
strong and getting things done and being able to pull something out of nothing. Like I really got off
Mm.
on that. And so not being able, like forcing myself to do it differently and to literally just sit in the stillness with how painful my life was in that moment, was very uncomfortable. And I just cried a lot and it felt like dying. And it was like an
Mm.
ego death. My identity was my ego was like, no, I'm
Help.
important. I'm
Yeah.
busy. I'm capable. And it was like, lie down. And it hurt, but it
Oh,
hurt so good. You know?
totally. Was there ever a time where you're like, I'm really done with this experiment? Like where you wanted to go back to the old pattern?
Um,
Or
no, because it felt so at the beginning was when it felt really
really,
uncomfortable, but I still
yeah.
had the enthusiasm of a new experiment. And then what's so cool about nervous system repatterning is it does have a compound effect. So very similar to the
Mm.
compound interest when we invest our money, when we invest our energy in healing our nervous system, when we do a little bit today, today's ceiling becomes tomorrow's floor, and then a little bit
Mm.
more, and then a little bit more. And so the more you do it, the more capacity you have to feel safe in your body, no matter what is going on. And when you feel safe in your body, no matter what's going on, you are fully present and you are smarter and you are more creative and you're a better problem solver and you are more magnetic. I mean, it is unbelievable how much easier it is to do life when your nervous system is regulated or more resilient. I like talking about a supple nervous system because
Yeah.
it's really that ability to just like move in and out. Regulated to me feels a little static. And the truth is, a healthy nervous system actually is toggling always
Well,
between
right.
parasympathetic and sympathetic. And
Yes.
it's just like it has a nice, sweet juiciness and vitality to it. So yeah.
No, I love that. And I have the same that we talk a lot about dysregulation in this household,
Mhm.
mostly in the context of parenting.
Yes.
I have two kiddos. Number one is caused us to reparent ourselves in all
Oh
the
yeah.
ways that our children do, and to learn like about every nook and cranny of yourself that you don't like, right?
Yeah.
So we do, I used to joke with friends for years, like we do a lot of unexpected behaviors in this household, right? And that ties directly
Such a
into
great way to say that.
this word regulation, like regulated nervous system versus dysregulated. And you're right, like that flow, that process of being in flow and being able to move between states and recognize when you're like, okay, here we go, we're moving a little bit out of a more balanced state is like what an analogy for life and for nearly everything that we face and that we learn to either process in a healthy way or overcome, right? But even the other day, I was reading, in light of all the political stuff going on, a book about how rational people begin to believe irrational things, right? And it talks about the impact of stress. The very first thing the book addresses is the impact of stress on our decision-making abilities.
It goes out the window.
Yes.
And when we've been in an experience of prolonged stress,
Yes.
which we all have in our
Yep.
own ways, what happens is our ability to be present in our prefrontal cortex, which is the part of our brain that makes good decisions and is like aware of possibilities and
Yeah.
aware of multiple, well, honestly, multiple realities, or
Yeah.
at least multiple perspectives, that ability goes out the window because it's actually very calorically expensive to rewire the brain and to learn anything new.
Mm.
And so it's just like if you wanted to redo the whole electrical system in your home, it's very expensive.
Yep.
And so rewiring the electrical, which is our nervous system in our bodies, is expensive. It requires actually quite a bit of energy. So your body will be like, nope, we're not going to think a new thought. We're not going to learn from someone we don't agree with. We're not going to consider new information that's not a match for our existing worldview because we don't have the energy for it,
Yeah.
literally from a calorie perspective. And when we've been so stressed for so long, our stress and threat bucket is overflowing and there's no space for
Mm.
anything new or for anything challenging. And we just go into full constriction and like massively limited worldview, which
Yeah.
is true about, politically speaking, but it's also true about our money. It's true about marriage. It's true in
Yeah.
parenting. And we suddenly, and I'm sure you've had these situations. I have, when you get so stressed and so tired and so overwhelmed, and you're suddenly like, my life is awful and now I live here.
And I
It's
can't
going to
do
be like that
anything. That's right.
forever.
I can't
And
do
now this is
anything
my
right.
reality. And that's just not true ever. But
No.
when our stress and threat bucket and is that high and we haven't been actively metabolizing the stress as part of our
Yeah.
daily practice through nervous system healing, which
Yeah.
I'm happy to share all sorts of things that will help you
Yeah.
metabolize the stress. But when we're not every single day dumping the stress and threat bucket through metabolism of it, we completely lose our ability to function optimally on every single level.
Oh, it's, even just those moments. I have two sisters that I'm very close to, and I talk to both of them constantly, one probably multiple times a day. But those times where you're like, oh my gosh. And as a mom, I think in particular, when this is happening, like I'm totally blood sugaring. That's we
Yeah.
like turned it into a verb. I'm blood sugaring right now, so I probably should go eat something.
Yeah.
And the reality is what you've just said about this stress mechanism in our body, when you're pumping cortisol, I mean, it's multiple cortisol and adrenaline into your bloodstream. The first thing it does sucks all the blood sugar out, right? It has to
Yes.
process something because it thinks you need to sprint
Mhm.
100 miles an hour that
Yeah, but
direction.
you're just like sitting at your desk or on the couch,
Yes.
and it
Yes.
just causes inflammation.
That's right. And suddenly, though, you really do have the limited capacity to process things, to think about things, to arrive at good solutions. And so, if you've ever had that experience, like my sister and I did, like, oh, I'm totally blood sugaring, that can be constant in a state of stress. And I think so many people, it's like the pressures build and build, and you don't realize like this compounding effect of stress until you reach a point where you're like, this is so unworkable. I have to do something differently. And then you end up
Yeah.
exploring things like nervous system work, right?
Totally. And unfortunately, for many people, the wake up call is becoming physically ill.
Yes, that's right.
And
It's a
and
bad
that
one. It's a bad wake up call.
it's a bad wake up call. It's common,
Yeah.
either it's like there's a huge blow up in your marriage or you get really sick. But the good news is the ways to metabolize this
Mhm.
stress are not hard and they're free. So,
I
so
love
that's
it. Give
great.
us a few pointers
The
for people that
number
are
one
like,
way is
yeah,
movement.
yeah,
Any kind, any kind. It could be walking, it could be dancing, it could be riding a bike, it could be pickleball, it could be, weight training, it could be yoga. Like anything in which you move your body does a
Mhm.
beautiful job at closing previous emotional stress loops that are like a million open tabs
Yeah.
in your internal browser. And so just move your body.
Mhm.
Laughter is a great one. Crying, so tears,
Yeah.
very effective. Breathing, and I know we're breathing
Mhm.
all the time, but like conscious breathing.
But real breathing. We're breathing, but kind of. Like,
Yeah,
here's
but
the
kind of like
thing. If you've
not,
ever been around a breath expert,
yeah,
I interviewed one on my podcast one day and he's like said something about my breathing and I was like, "Oh, I'm expert level at going through life and
oh
shallow
yeah, and
breathing."
like not breathing. Right.
As a mom, I mean, I had the kid that was like didn't understand danger or safety issues and so like you feel sometimes, I will speak for myself, I feel as a mom like forced into helicopter parenting
Yeah.
in all the ways. And like if somebody were to ask me how a day went, I'd be like, my kid's alive.
Yeah.
I feel like I did my job.
Yeah.
That was the extent of it, right? And so
Totally.
my nervous system for years, and it's only been now in recent times that I'm learning some of the work that you're talking about how everything is nervous system.
Everything.
Everything is
Everything.
dictated by your nervous system. Your
Yeah.
capacity is dictated. Your capacity for parenting is dictated by your nervous system.
Well, and also, as business owners, it really is our magnetism. So
Mhm.
when we are dysregulated as business owners, we will either you know, repel
Repel.
customers or attract dysregulated customers who make our life incredibly difficult. The more you become resilient in your nervous system, the
Mhm.
more healing you do, it is easier to find high level clients
Yep.
who are a joy to work with, who love paying you lots of money. And it's really easy. That is true when you have a more regulated nervous system. You also just become more magnetic. Like people who are further along in their healing journey just are like, great. I don't know what you're doing, but I want to work with you. Doors open, opportunities become available. People
Mhm.
just start asking you to do stuff. Things become a lot more magnetic and in flow in
Mm.
business when we're operating from a regulated, healthy place. So it does make things a lot easier to attract more money
Mm.
when you are operating from nervous system health and safety. But I do work with a lot of people who've done nervous system healing in regards to parenting
Yeah.
or past traumas or whatever, who've never actually applied it to their financial life. So their financial life is still a place of profound dysregulation.
Oh,
Um,
100. It's, I think about my own journey where I'm like, okay, I feel like I've really evolved or learned something in this department, right? Because we have phases of life, whether it's like relationship centric or parenting centric or whatever, where you're going to learn a whole bunch about a topic, right? But it evolves. This is the whole journey of business, is the problems you had yesterday may not be the problems you have today, but you got a new type of problem. Yeah. So speak to us about folks that have done work in other areas, but are like, they've got some things hanging out in the financial closet that they haven't looked at.
well, one of the phrases that I love to use because it really highlights the problem is making good money doesn't make you good with money.
Mm.
The number of women I know who are really making good money for all
Mhm.
intents and purposes, but who lack the internal and external infrastructure
Yeah.
to actually receive that money, it's astounding. A study from Elvest showed that amongst women making $270,000 or more a year, which is a good, really good
Mm.
income, over 75% of them still do not feel financially confident,
Mm.
which is proof, of course, that more money doesn't solve the problem. And so, what I find is folks who go just super unconscious around money because our relationship with money is so intermingled with our feelings of security and
Mhm.
freedom. And
Yes.
those are super core issues.
Yeah.
And so money becomes a place to project
Mhm.
all of our deepest fears. And until we consciously face that within a safe relationship, within a safe container, we just literally dissociate or
Mm.
go into super hypervigilance or toggle between the two, which is deeply exhausting.
Oh, as a kid, I lived in hypervigilance all the way into my 20s. And then my mom died while I was pretty young, in law school, first year of law school. And then, not too long later, I had a baby sister die. And like all of that vigilance around money just went out the window because it became unsustainable, right? And then, then it's like, what do you replace that with? And I
What do
think
you
there are a
replace that
lot
with?
of people that go through that pendulum swing at some point in life where they're like,
Yeah.
okay, I did that and I tried that and that didn't really work or feel good to me,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of people are learning the like, okay, what now in later phases?
Absolutely. And I think it's really important that you said that because our systems need to upgrade as we do.
Mhm.
And so for people who find themselves at a plateau in their income or, some sort of plateau in their business, I think we have to really understand that what got us here will not get us
Mhm.
there. And that's why we do need to keep finding new
Yep.
mentors, reading new
Yep.
books, using new tools, because of course there are some things that can get you, like Pilates is going to be good for you no matter what, right? Like you can stick
Regardless.
with Pilates, but but even just this week, my husband and I are upgrading our whole financial software,
Mhm.
methodology because what got us here is not going to
Yeah.
get us there. And we need to upgrade our operating system, just like you do with your
Yeah.
computer and your phone. And we are the same way as beings. Our
Mhm.
bodies are that same way. And then our literal systems are that same way. Our softwares are, what app are you doing? Who are the financial professionals? And we need to be in a continuous evolution with
Mhm.
those things, very similarly to how we are about our eating or our exercise program or the way we're parenting or the next evolution in our marriage.
That's
And
right.
money just like goes out the window because it's such a taboo topic, and people are just like so afraid to talk about
Mm.
it and to tell the truth. There's so much shame. And I'm
Mm.
really here to just like help people feel safe and excited about money.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, I can tell why people do with you, right? You make it safe, and I can tell you're open in sharing about your own journey. And I think it's just really important. I mean, what you just said about it being a journey, it's not like you put a system in place and that's going to take care of you for the rest of your life. Just like in the medical world, right? I mean, I know you guys have been through the ringer, and myself being on my own kind of healing, like take care of mom journey now, you don't just start with one doctor and finish with one doctor. It like you look here for this, you look here for this, you go here for this, and it's just this constant tweak, upgrade, learn more. Okay, we can do this a little better. Same with finances. So I love it, and I think it's a mindset. For people who are like, oh my gosh, I need to hear more, learn more, connect with you. First of all, what are the ways that you work with clients or have services or programs available to people? Tell us how you work.
So our signature program, it's 80% of what I do, is called Relaxed Money. And it's a neuroscience based method to help people heal their relationship with money internally and externally so
Mhm.
that you get the nervous system capacity and safety, but also the financial systems. And then even beyond that, energetics, manifesting, and then
Mhm.
investing. So really taking it to
Mm.
that next level as well. So that's my program, but I do have a free experience that people can move into to just test it out, just try
Mhm.
out. And that's called Good with Money. So,
Excellent. And that free experience, we will share links, folks, to Kate's website. Are you on social? Do you like for people to connect
yes.
with you on socials? Where do you
Yeah,
live?
please do. So at
Mhm.
Kate Northrup, I'm on social. You send me a DM, say hello. But yes, that is where I am.
Excellent. Okay, so folks, pop over to the show notes page. You can always find them at legalwebsitewarrior.com/podcast. Find Kate's episode and you'll see all of her links there. Your free experience, did you say it's an auditory experience?
Oh, yes.
Or
So,
was this
well,
a different one?
I there are two. So if you want to be
Okay.
with me live, it's called Good with Money, and that is a free 3-day workshop where we're
Okay.
really going to begin the rewiring process. I'm going to take what I've learned since winter 2021 and give you the best of the best in this free workshop. So that's Good with Money. And then
Okay.
I do have a free audio experience also. If you just send me a DM that says reset, you'll get that. It's called the money
Amazing.
reset.
Okay, I couldn't remember and I should have referred back to my notes.
That's fine.
Um, no, I love it. And I know you also have several books. So, folks, if you are a reader like me, and that's a great way for you to get introduced, Kate, tell us about your multiple books.
Yeah, my books are called Money, a Love Story, and then Do Less. And those are available anywhere books are sold, and they're also available on audio. And then since you're a podcast listener, I have a podcast called Plenty.
Love it. Shout out to those other amazing podcasts. We will put a link over to your podcast as well, Kate.
Thank you.
Um, so fun to spend time with you. I'm so glad that technology did not keep us from making this happen.
This is so great.
What final little tidbit of, I mean, you've given us lots to think about, but what final step or quote or anything would you like to leave our listeners with today?
I would like to say that there was never a baby born being good with money, and therefore there is not one person on the planet who cannot learn how to be good with money because it is a literal skill set that anyone can learn and embody.
Amazing. And just for folks that are listening, remind me the dates of your upcoming
Oh, yes.
program, right?
It's
Because that's right around the corner, and we're going to get this published ahead of time.
right. Yeah, it begins April 17th.
April 17th. Okay, so people just put it on your calendar. April 17th. I think you should show up. All right. Kate, big thank you to you. Really appreciate your message. It was just a joy to connect.
Thank you for having me.